Please take your seats quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim and Chris. On today's French Open Round 4 catch-up.
Novak Djokovic delivers in another epic comeback.
Iga Swiatek cruises through in just 40 minutes.
And Jannik Sinner survives a first set scare to make the quarterfinals.
Kim, today is the 3rd of June and we are here to catch up on round 4 of the French Open at Tennis Weekly HQ. Wow. And that's me not just talking about the fact we didn't have any rain today at Roland Garros. Novak Djokovic delivered yet another scarcely believable epic comeback against a fantastic Francisco Cerundolo. Elsewhere, Alex De Minaur became the first Australian in 20 years to make the quarterfinals at Roland Garros, and there were simple victories for the likes of Sabalenka, Rybakina and Iga Swiatek, who decimated poor Potapova in 40 minutes. We will also be unveiling the winner of our Boodles competition, plus giving a midway update on our collector set challenge for this year's French Open. Kim, it's an action-packed episode for us at Tennis Weekly HQ, and I'm not going to lie, I'm still catching my breath after that Djokovic match. What a Monday night treat.
It's classic Djokovic as well, though, isn't it, Joel? We've seen this so many times.
We could have written the
script.
We could have written the script.
Every time he went for the change of ends, I thought, is he actually going to go to the net and offer his hand in retirement?
I feel like the camera person was probably thinking that as well, because it was just so fixated on him. I was sort of expecting his hand to rise and the eyes to look at Cerundolo to just be like, I can't move, I can't continue.
Really topsy-turvy match, because he went, 6-1 up that first set. I thought, oh, this is easy for Djokovic. Like, this is not a good matchup, for Cerundolo. Like, Djokovic is past the trials and tribulations that he's had, in the last round with Moutet. But then it quickly turned, didn't it? Because he had the trainer on court, his knee seemed to be bothering him. And it almost could have been Cerundolo's.
He just wanted the sunshine in Paris, I think, because there's just been so little of it over the last week or so. This was like the first day, it felt like, that it just sort of went off without a hitch. We didn't need a roof for the day session. There were bright blue skies. Yes, it could have been a little bit warmer, but Novak Djokovic maybe was just a bit thankful that the weather was all right.
He had his cap on, which you don't often see him in a peak cap, but he had it out. The sun was out. You had a nice sunny day at Surbiton, I believe, yesterday as well, Joel, out on the grass courts in southwest London. How was that?
It was lovely. It was beautiful. I was there for qualifying, and isn't it just great when you can just rock up and watch some real quality tennis for free in a qualifying event pre, the main draw. And there was just so many big names on show. Alja Tomljanovic was there. Kyle Edmund was there. Harmony Tan, Serena Williams, Wimbledon conqueror was there. So, it was a real action-packed schedule. And I got so excited, actually. I didn't actually realise. I forgot that men's qualifying was on as well, because it's an ITF event on the women's side, but it's an ATP event on the men's side, and you have to look at both order of plays separately, and I completely was so excited I forgot about that. So it was almost a little bonus when I got there, and I was like, oh, hang on.
There's some male players here.
This is a combined event. There is men and women's tennis on at the same time. So, it was lovely, and I also got to I was able to actually watch some tennis whilst having a drink, which you can't do at the French
Roland
Open.
Garros.
Exactly. So that was a lot of fun as well.
I hope the crowd aren't too rowdy at Surbiton, though. Troublemakers out in the suburbs.
Yeah, I don't think it was particularly rowdy, but I'm not going to lie. I feel like a lot of tennis fans can relate. To me, there's just nothing better than having a cold pint in your hand and watching tennis in a from the corner. With empty seats around you, just sort of lying back, talking to your mate about the match and all the other matches going on. Oh, it's just bliss for me.
Yeah, I can't see Wimbledon following suit because what would happen to all those endless jugs of Pimm's, glasses of Pimm's? But that's a question and a story for another day. Let's go back to Novak Djokovic, because the crowd at times was getting quite quite rowdy in this match. You know, people were jumping up and down. They were so excited because they thought, you know, are we witnessing one of, you know, sort of his, well, either greatest comebacks or one of his kind of memorable losses, I suppose. And in the end, it was a comeback. Djokovic coming through in a fifth set. Really, I think that crucial period is, you know, getting that break back in the fourth set. You know, Cerundolo was a break up for most of that set. All he needed to do was hold his nerve and hold his serve, you know, a couple more times, and he wasn't able to do that. Absolutely. And Djokovic just kind of coming through. Once it went 5, I thought, yeah, Novak's got this now. And to be fair, all credit to him, his breakpoint record, the number of breakpoints he saved across this match, saving 15 of 19. You know, you knew he wasn't going to go out without a fight. You know, that's just not Novak Djokovic. And I think really, he makes it as difficult as possible for his opponents, even with an injury, you know, to actually get the job done.
Yeah, he did play the big points well. And I think he also managed his injury well because, you know, it wasn't like late on, you know, it felt like anyway, he was hampered in terms of his mobility. I mean, that knee injury, it'll be fascinating to see how, you know, his recovery goes. But the fact that the last time he was on court, it was like 3:38 in the morning. He probably didn't get much sleep, probably going to bed closer to when we get up. So I was always kind of fascinated to see, you know, how that recovery went going into this match and any sort of after effect it would have on him. And I thought we were going to be talking more about that as opposed to him suffering what looked like an injury that, you know, hampered his movement. And I do wonder from a Cerundolo point of view, whether did he go for the jugular? Did he make the most of that lack of mobility that Djokovic had and really be ruthless about it? Because although that match was played in a very good spirit, I definitely think there were opportunities for Cerundolo to seize the initiative and go on and win it.
Yeah, I mean, big credit to him. He played a fantastic match, especially after, you know, losing that first set 6-1, which would have, you know, probably demoralised a lot of players. You know, he really did take it to Djokovic. But yeah, just in those like clutch moments, I didn't have, you know, full confidence that he was going to do it. I just, you know, he was. It's difficult though, isn't it? He's probably never been in that situation before. He was trying to get through to the quarterfinals of a Grand Slam against, you know, it's Novak Djokovic down the other end. So I think he did keep himself together a lot better than I thought he might actually, but it just wasn't enough. He didn't have that critical factor. It
killer
that
instinct.
Fourth set. Yes, killer instinct.
I mean, just on Novak Djokovic, I know we talk about the familiarity of these comebacks and we almost expect it. I have to again ask you, did you still expect it to happen, given, as I say, the late finish he had in the round before, the fact that he's 37 years old, and, you know, another 5-set match that he came through against Moutet in the previous round, did you still think it was on?
I think at 4-2 down in the fourth set, I think I said to you, oh, you know, let's record, you know, let's record soon, assuming Djokovic loses in 4. So I think at that point I was kind of
he must have heard
thinking
you.
It's a genuine possibility that he is going to lose this. But at the back of my mind, I was kind of thinking, well, yeah, now I've said that, he's going to win in 5. And as soon as he won that fourth set, or as soon as he broke back, I think, and levelled that set, I think we all kind of knew it had a sense of inevitability about it. But it is quite a significant win, actually, because it was Djokovic's 370th career win at a Grand Slam, which actually surpasses Roger Federer's previous record as having the all-time men's record for most Grand Slam wins. So, you know, it is quite significant in terms of the stats. And it's also the 59th Grand Slam quarterfinal of his career, which again breaks Federer's current record of 58. So yet 2 more records that Novak Djokovic now holds. So I'm sure he'll be delighted to have ticked those ones off in the process of, you know, coming back from what could have been an early exit here at Roland Garros.
Where does Cerundolo go from here? The fact that he was so close, 5 sets, probably, you know, had opportunities to get this done in 4 sets. I mean, on commentary, you know, John McEnroe was talking about this being, you know, the match of his lifetime, really peaking, and yet obviously ending in defeat. Where do you think he goes from here? How do you think he comes back from this moment that was a big opportunity for him to make a memorable giant killing on one of the biggest stages of all.
I think you've got to view it through what you can learn and gain from it, not what could have been. And I think if you'd have told him...
What will he learn?
Well, I think what to do in those moments when you're, on centre stage up against, the greatest player of all time, arguably. What you might do differently in certain moments, how to, keep that focus and that energy. And I'm saying this, but, I don't think he necessarily did too much wrong. I just think it's Djokovic
upping his levels.
Exactly. And I think, therefore, I think he should be really proud of his efforts. He should take heart in how he played, how he made a match of it. And, it's just that pivotal fourth set, really. And just those kind of key moments. And, maybe just some different decisions on some of the break points, because he did have quite a lot. Especially, I think, in the second set, which obviously he did win that set in the end, but it was a long time coming. He could have won it earlier on, and I think just battling through just to get even just one break, that's extra effort, extra energy you're expending, and if you can do it more efficiently, then obviously that's better. So I think, lots of positives for him to take from this experience, and he's still got many years ahead of him on the tour. So I would hope that come this sort of situation again, he'll maybe go one better next time.
Definitely. And should we be worried about this leg injury from Novak Djokovic going into the quarterfinals? I mean, the last time he won back-to-back 5-setters at a Grand Slam was in 2012.
Oh, wow.
Also at the French Open, he defeated Andreas Seppi in the fourth round, and then he defeated Jo-Wilfried Tsonga in the quarterfinals. Should we be worried, do you think, about this leg injury and how he manages it? I think it's quite interesting in the sense that coming off the win against Musetti, it was like time wasn't on his side in terms of recovery. But now this time, the thing that's not on his side seems to be his body.
Yeah, and we've seen him in previous slams, like in previous years, having injury concerns, but still coming through, still winning the tournament. But this time around, he is that slight bit older, and he hasn't had great form coming into the tournament. Is it a bit different this time around? How quickly can he recover? What is the severity of this injury? Is he going to be able to, pull off a 5-set win over the likes of Sasha Zverev, Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner, etc. as the tournament goes on? I'm not so sure, but I don't think we've got the full kind of information yet coming out. If anyone can, I think Djokovic can.
I mean, it could be. I mean, it's going to be either Casper Ruud or Taylor Fritz-Nets. Who do you think Novak Djokovic is hoping he plays from those two?
That's a tricky one, because I think either of those are winnable for him, to be honest. And they're actually, as we're recording, they are deep in a third set, so that one could be going on a while. I think I'd be looking more towards the semi-final and the final as being issues for Djokovic, with another match on top of what he's already played. Yeah, I don't know. But it really does depend on the recovery and how bad that knee is. If it was something just like a niggle that was playing on his mind a lot today, because he did seem to play obviously better as the match wore on, and whether the painkillers were having some impact in helping him get through it. And Rafa has won this tournament with like no feeling in his foot, so the greats can perform, play and win even when in intense pain and having serious issues. So if anyone can, Novak Djokovic can. So I'm not willing to write him off just yet based on what we've seen.
No. I think, it's funny because I think, I mean, just finally on Djokovic, I do think that, we've seen, all the pretenders in the draw, the favourites, etc. And I do think Novak Djokovic doesn't need to be 100% to win this tournament. He doesn't need to play the tennis and the levels he got to, against, Rafa or, Federer or Murray or whoever it is, in their kind of in their kind of golden era. And I think that's what makes it kind of interesting kind of going into the last rounds, is that even if Djokovic is at 80% or whatever it is, I still think he's got to fighting chance, whereas a few years ago, I think you would have counted him out.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I think that's entirely the case. And I just, it'd be really interesting. I mean, it's already been interesting this whole tournament, seeing how Djokovic gets on, far more than in other years where you just think, oh, he's going to sail through. I've been really intrigued to watch him each round this time around. So it does make for perhaps a more engaging, run through the tournament. And I mean, on the subject of injury, Joel, it does lead us on to, unfortunately, another match that was somewhat hampered by injury today. And that was the Alex de Minaur against Daniil Medvedev clash, which went 4 sets. Alex de Minaur coming through to reach his first quarterfinal at Roland Garros, and incidentally becoming the first Australian male player to reach this stage since Leighton Hewitt 20 years ago. But Daniil Medvedev, after winning that first set today,
he looks so good. He looked
really good.
I was like, Klaverdev is here. Klaverdev is here. Alex de Minaur does not have an answer to it. And then that medical timeout happened, towards the start of the second set. Medvedev has a blister, and it just felt like that was the beginning of the downfall. Yeah,
he wasn't the same player after that.
No.
That moment with the trainer coming on, looking at his foot, and Alex de Minaur, very kind of stalwart opponent, very clinical he was for the rest of the match, and got the job done, and it was pretty comfortable, 6-2, 6-1, 6-3 in those final 3 sets. A real shame, I think, for the match, for Medvedev, of course. But full credit to Alex de Minaur. He's played a good tournament so far, kind of coming through consistently into new territory here, which is fantastic for him. But yeah, I do wonder if we would have seen, more from Medvedev going deep in this tournament had he not been affected today with that foot problem.
Yeah, I think with de Minaur, he's probably up there in terms of the top players. You do not want an injury, when you're facing de Minaur across the net, because he can just exploit you with the way he moves your opponent around the court as well. He was employing quite a few drop shots as part of his tactics in relation to Medvedev and his blister. So yeah, he got the strategy kind of spot on. And although there was like a mini fight back in the 4th set, it felt like Medvedev was just a bit too distracted. And similar to Djokovic, I was wondering whether he was gonna retire. It just felt like his energy went kind of flat. And we all know with de Minaur, he's so solid that even if he just sort of plays at the same level and what you're going to get, if your level drops, he can make the most of that. And he's added more pace to his game. He's still as consistent as ever, I think. And it's just kind of just rewards, I think, for all the training and the improvements that he's made his game, certainly over the last 12, 18 months or so. And it's exciting to see him in the quarterfinals because, from an Australian point of view, it's not happened in so long. And it's exciting times ahead. Unknown territory for him at Roland Garros, and be interested to see how he handles these new pressures.
Absolutely, and he does face either Zverev or Rune next, and they are on court now as we're recording this in the night session on Chatrier. I'm predicting Zverev to come through that. We'll see. But yeah, I'm sure de Minaur will be hoping he has a tired opponent in the next round so he can kind of work his magic on them as well.
I guess you can't begrudge Novak Djokovic for making the night session start so late, given when he started, what was it, like past 10:30 against Musetti, and finishing past 3 a.m. But that'll be I think that'll be an interesting one. I mean, just quickly, de Minaur, who do you think he would want to face? Zverev or Rune?
Rune, I think.
Who do you think he will face?
I think he'll face Zverev. I think Zverev will come through against Rune. Famous last words. But we'll see. But yeah, I think it's a good lineup regardless. We've got the top seeds going deep, and we've got that in the women's side of things as well, more or less. We'll get onto the top half of the draw after the break, but we've got our bottom half quarterfinal set on the women's side of things today. We've got Rybakina against Paolini and Sabalenka versus Ondreeva. Those 4 players all coming through their 4th round matches today. We had Sabalenka defeating Emma Navarro and Elena Rybakina defeating Alina Svitolina. So Rybakina and Sabalenka continue to be, two of the favourites for this event, and both, comfortable enough winners today out on Chatrier. First up, what did you make of Sabalenka first of all, Joel, up against Emma Navarro, who's at this stage of a Grand Slam for the very first time?
Yeah, I was quite fascinated by that matchup because Navarro beat Sabalenka at Indian Wells earlier in the year in 3 sets, and although I still obviously had Sabalenka as the favourite going into that. Obviously, there's that kind of seed of doubt in your mind if you're kind of wondering, hang on, this player beat me a few months ago. What do I need to do to kind of change it round? And I think it was quite clear that, again, with a lot of players, a lot of opponents to Sabalenka, the power game was just too much. She hit 36 winners, 21 more than her opponent, and she was just destroying the Navarro serve, particularly the second serve. She won 14 of 17 points on the Navarro second serve. So it just shows that she was just in control through all of it, and she's just in a very good mood at the moment. I think you see that off the court. I see her kind of dancing with Ons Jabeur as well. I think she's got the right mentality of that sort of way that works for Sabalenka in terms of she doesn't keep it too focused and too focused on the tennis. I think maybe that was her problem before, is that similar to maybe like an Andrei Rublev, wanted it too much and she needed to relax a little. And I think we see that across the slams because she's been so consistent, and I think in Paris it's been more of the same.
Yeah, she's so consistent at the slams. Since the beginning of last year, so early 2023. She's lost just the 3 matches at the slams. She's got to the semi-finals or more at the vast majority of them. She's so consistent, and today she was just comfortable hitting those winners, not having a break point. Yeah. Emma Navarro didn't really have a look in.
It was a roadblock for Navarro. I mean, she's had a great tournament. More fancied Americans have fallen sooner, Keys and Collins. So, a great result, for her. But I think it's sort of exciting from a fan's point of view because, the favourites that we spoke about in the build-up, they're continuing on, and they look like they're in some very, very good form. Sabalenka seems to be peaking at the right time. Swiatek as well seems to be peaking at the right time. I'd only say Rybakina. I wouldn't say necessarily her win against Svitolina was vintage Rybakina. I still think maybe they're of those kind of favourites. I still think maybe there's the most work to do with her. But again, the fact that she won in straight sets, and so comprehensively as well against a very, very good opponent in Svitolina, it just shows, I think, that we could be on for something very special, I think, come later in the tournament if these players continue playing the way they do.
Yeah, Rybakina not at her best, but given the calibre of her opponent, and Svitolina had a leading head-to-head over Rybakina as well, but they haven't actually played in about 3 years. Rybakina's a different player since that time. But yeah, she got the job done. She did what she needed to do. Too strong for Svitolina, but not at her best. But that's, if you're into the quarterfinals without playing your best, and there's a next level you can go up to, and we've seen her do that before, playing the best when she needs to do so at Slam, then I think, that's nothing too concerning for her. So we do have Rybakina and Sabalenka up against perhaps the more surprising opponents in their quarterfinal matches. Jasmine Paolini will play Elena Rybakina. She is the 12th seed here, but this is the first time she's reached the quarterfinal stage, and she came through over another surprise package, Elena Avaniasan today. Weird scoreline again, Joel. I know you love these very topsy-turvy scorelines, but Paolini coming from a set down and then winning 6-love, 6-1 in those last 2 sets.
I mean, it was ugly tennis. It was ugly tennis from Paolini in that first set. I mean, 23 unforced errors. This is like the Paolini I feel like I've been watching over the last few years. She's she can produce very good tennis, but she can also be erratic on her day. And I sort of thought we were, in for another upset. Avaniasan has got such a great record against top ranked players in the game. She's got a winning head to head against top 15 opponents. But Paolini just sort of, I think, had a reset in that second set, and it was just a bit of a formality from there. I mean, love and won. Avenirsson didn't have any answers, and I think one of the things that is so good about Paolini's game is that I think she's such a good doubles player that she's able to apply herself and apply tactics on a doubles court and surprise her opponents in the singles court, and it gives her that confidence, I think, to go to the net, to finish off the points, and she doesn't have to necessarily get into slugfests from the back of the court. And I think that will be very important when she comes up in her next match, that she is maybe able to not get embroiled in long, extensive rallies, and she can choose her moments to come in, because I think that was one of the reasons she was so successful against Avenirsson, because she won 15 from 17 at the net, and again, against Rybakina, that could be a weapon that you should, I think, be looking to employ. Yeah,
she certainly is going to need to raise her level against Rybakina. She can't afford the same number of unforced errors that she made today. And I think, coming into the net would be a good tactic. She won the Rome doubles, just recently with Irani. So make use of those double skills. Why not? I think that would be a great strategy. As for Sabalenka, she's going to be up against Ondreva. Ondreva coming through today.
We should say Mira Andreeva, because she defeated her sister earlier. What was that, in round one?
Yes, Sabalenka defeated her sister. Yeah, so she'll be maybe defeating both of the sisters. Yeah. Ondreva coming through in straight sets today over Gracheva, who was the kind of last remaining French player in the women's draw, 7-5, 6-2. So yeah, straight sets win for Ondreva there. She's made it through to the quarterfinals here. I say she's a surprise, but I think a lot of people were tipping her to perhaps come out of this quarter, and she is absolutely one to watch. She's gone deep at slams already, so she is a young hope. Do you think she's going to have enough, though, at this stage in her career to challenge Sabalenka come the quarterfinal?
It's a very fascinating matchup. It's, to me, the more interesting of the pair, if you put them side by side with Paolini versus Rybakina. But I think it will be a learning experience for her. I think that's the way she should approach it, and not put too much pressure on herself. I think it's almost a fun situation to be in, given how young she is and the fact that she is in a quarterfinal, and this will be one of the toughest tests that she has faced in her young career. So I think it's going to be a really interesting matchup for her, but I would expect Sabalenka to have too much power for her, and I think the question will be for Andreeva is how does she negate that power? How does she control it and get on the front foot in rallies? Because I think too often than not, Sabalenka opponents become too passive, and all of a sudden Sabalenka's on top of you blasting winners. So I think that's going to be the key question there, trying to keep a lid on things, but easier said than done when Sabalenka is just playing this well.
Yeah, she looks like she's on the pathway here. I think Sabalenka, very impressive today for me. I think she, along with Swiatek, have seemed, for the most part, the most impressive so far at this tournament.
I would be on the phone to my sister. That's what I'll be doing. That's what I'm expecting Mira and Andreeva to be doing. In how to play Sabalenka, because it is such a daunting prospect, I think, and you almost don't want to let that. You almost sort of don't want to think about it and let that get on top of you.
Absolutely. Well, let's take a very quick break now, but we'll be back in the second half to look back on day 8. So all of the action from Sunday at Roland Garros, including Jannik Sinner almost getting bageled by Corentin Moutet. Plus, we'll be unveiling the winner of our Boodles competition. So do not go anywhere. Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast. And before we get on to the rest of the action from the 4th round at Roland Garros, we do have a very exciting announcement to make, which is our Boodles competition that we recently run. Thank you so much to everyone who entered. We were running a competition for a lucky winner to win a pair of tickets to the event, which takes place at Stoke Park later this month on the lovely, lovely grass courts there. So, Joel, we do have a winner that's been randomly selected from our entrants. Would you like to reveal who our lovely lucky winner is? Drum roll, please.
Drum roll, please. Drum roll, please. The winner of our Boodles competition, the Tennis Weekly podcast Boodles competition for 2024 is Laura Field. Well done. Congratulations, Laura Field. You are our winner of our Boodles competition. So a pair of tickets is coming your way from Tennis Weekly HQ. We will get in touch. We will do all the hard work and reach out to you and make sure that is sorted for you. But congratulations for winning our Boodles competition.
Yeah, congratulations, Laura. We'll be in touch, as Joel said. And once you get there on the day, we hope you have a fantastic time at the Boodles, which, we went last year and it was a brilliant event. So, do enjoy it when you get there. And without further ado, Joel, I think on to the other half of the draws at Roland Garros, because we did have the rest of the fourth round action taking place on Sunday. And I think we've got to start probably with...
There's only one place to start.
That Moutet Sinner match, which was the night
Moutet
session.
Sinner first set. What was that about?
Jannik Sinner went down 5-love in the first set to Corentin Moutet, who,
5-love 40-15. What?
Favourite. Yeah, 1 point away from losing that first set. I mean, the crowd probably just couldn't believe what was happening. No one would have predicted that.
I didn't even think Corentin Moutet knew what was happening. Yeah, it was a shock. It was a surprise. Jannik Sinner's been playing great so far, coming back from injury, and we sort of were expecting him to kind of have a very straightforward victory against Moutet, who is a player who is hot and cold. He's known, I think, more for his theatrics on the tennis court more than anything. But I will say to Moutet that I think, if there is one environment where he would thrive in at the most, it's going to be Roland Garros on Philippe Chatrier, with all eyes on you from your home crowd. If that's not going to rev up your engines, I don't know what is.
At least he rose to the occasion. We've seen other players who are in front of their home crowd.
Other French players.
Just freeze. Yeah, a notable example. We've seen them freeze, not be able to play their game, but at least he came out all guns blazing and had that, whale of a time in the first set. The rest of the match, wasn't quite the same. Jannik Sinner, got the better of him. He tightened up his game. He decided, enough is enough. I'm going to play my game now and show him who's boss. And, it was comfortable for Sinner after that, the next 3 sets. But yeah, just that kind of excitement of the first set, I'm sure will live in the memory of a lot of those fans who were there on court for that one.
Yeah, the story of that first set really was with the Sinner serve. I mean, his first serve percentage was only at 59%, and Moutet was just climbing all over his second serve. So, Sinner, his first serve percentage improved as it went on, and naturally the momentum shifted his way as well, and it turned into a pretty straightforward victory in the end. I still think it was one of those where, regardless of Moutet winning the first set, you still sort of had Sinner as favourite. I always remember back to Wimbledon quite a few years ago when Roger Federer, I think, was like 2 sets down in round 1 to Alejandro Falla, and he was still the favourite with the bookies. And I was sort of thinking about that match when this was happening. And I think Moutet, he sort of ran out of ideas, I think, a little bit as well. I think it worked well in the first set, but once Sinner was understanding what Moutet was delivering to him, and it was a lot of drop shots, it felt like, probably a bit too many, he was able to come through in the end.
Yeah, he also made the point that Moutet is a left-handed, so that brings that other level of dimension. It's a bit different. Some players find it a bit harder, so sometimes it takes a bit of time to just adapt and adjust to that. But I think it's good that Sinner faced a bit of a challenge, because I think you do need to be battle hardened as the stages go on. So I think he'll be pleased to have come through that with just a little bit of a hiccup in the first set.
If you're one of Sinner's contemporaries looking on at this match and seeing how that first set unravelled, what are you thinking in terms of Sinner's prospects for the rest of the tournament? Should we be worried with this blip and this fact that he went AWOL and it was that bad that he was very nearly bageled by Corentin Moutet? Would you be worried?
Yeah, to some extent. I think every player, even the greats that are winning a Grand Slam, you're going to have a dodgy set here or there. It might not end in you maybe losing at 6-2 or almost losing at 6-love, but I think you're going to have one dodgy set where, you're not serving great. And I think for opponents, you just got to make hay while the sun shines when he's offering you, those serves that you can really get a hit on. And you've got to just take those chances and moments and capitalize on them. Because we saw, just going on to the Tsitsipas Arnaldi match, Arnaldi was a setup. He had points to go 2 sets up. He wasn't able to capitalise. And, Tsitsipas came through, clinched that second set, and it was quite, a formality after that. So, sort of classic example of, you've really got to, be efficient with those chances you get against the top players, because they don't come round too often. Let's talk about, I guess, the other match that probably provided a bit more drama on Sunday. That was the Hubert Hurkacz against Grigor Dimitrov match, which was the last match out on Suzanne Lenglen. This went 3 sets, but it was a close match, wasn't it? It was, obviously some tie breaks, as Hubert Hurkacz is on court. Never far from a tie break he is. And I guess the main talking point from this match, though, was Hubert Hurkacz's fury at the umpire. He was not happy with Alison Hughes, the umpire. And at one point, Joe, and I've never sort of seen this really happen before, he actually went over to Dimitrov and asked him if he wanted to carry on playing with that umpire. I think he was suggesting that they changed the umpire. I mean, have you ever seen a player request that before?
No, I haven't. I mean, just watching it and reading some of the dialogue, it didn't sit right with me. It felt a little bit entitled, to be honest, in terms of like the feeling that he can just change the umpire at will. And, seemingly he thought that maybe Grigor Dimitrov was going to have his backing. I mean, just some of the language he used in this sort of altercation. And he said, call the supervisor. And then he spoke to Grigor Dimitrov, saying, you want to continue with the lady here, or you want to change ? It was, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it was bizarre. I don't not necessarily associate Hubert Hurkacz with this sort of behaviour, but I didn't like it. I think he should have accepted the call. I actually think the call was the correct one. And he shouldn't have let it get into his mind, and he shouldn't have tried to get Grigor Dimitrov involved. And I think Dimitrov was smart in terms of saying, essentially, hey, this is your thing. Don't get me involved in this. If you want to make more of this, you do that on your own accord. So it was just a very bizarre sort of encounter, I think, during the match that wasn't necessary. And it just shows, I think, a little bit of discord, I think, between players and umpires that, I just don't think it wasn't necessary to have that on the court at that moment. Yeah,
I think you can express, some dissatisfaction about a call maybe going against you, but at the end of the day, the umpire is in charge, and like their call is final, and you do have to just accept that and kind of get on with things. And the more you,
it's the nature of tennis. You've got to get on with it. The more you
resist it, the worse it's going to be for your game.
You can't just not like the decision and say, I want another umpire. I mean, could you imagine if that happened, the precedent that would set? I feel like lots of more tennis players would be like, I want to change the umpire.
Yeah, or they might ask for the umpire to be changed before the match even begins and think, I had a bad experience with that umpire once. I'm not having them again. I think Dimitrov was just a bit baffled when Hurkacz came over to sort of suggest this. I think he was just a bit like, okay, whatever, and unfortunately Dimitrov, just kept his cool and got the job done and didn't sort of focus too much on the antics coming down from the other end of the court. And I mean, the one thing I didn't like with some of the language used as well from Hurkacz is his kind of choice of kind of saying like, do you want to continue with the lady here? I felt that, it was a kind of a bit of a sexist element with the choice of words there. Did he need to point out that, that what gender the umpire is? How is that relevant? But, it may well not have been that in terms of his intention, but it just kind of reading the dialogue, it didn't, sit right with me. But I guess the more positive storyline to come out of this match is that Grigor Dimitrov is through to the quarterfinals at Roland Garros for the very first time. And he's now done a complete kind of career slam of quarterfinals, which is great for him. And he's done that at the Masters 1000s as well. So I suppose that's something that, attests to kind of his consistency and the longevity of his career as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a fantastic competitor, all throughout his durability. To see him at the quarterfinals and complete this set, I think, is testament to that. I guess my question is, should it be more than that? Do you think with someone like Grigor Dimitrov is a career set of quarterfinals and beyond at all four slams? Is that, when we look back on his career, do you think he could have done more? Like, for example, should he have got to the semis of all the Grand Slams? I think, maybe that's a question in the back of my head. I mean, it's still a fantastic achievement, but I feel like he could have maybe kicked on.
I feel like a Grand Slam final is almost owed to him, or I feel like before he retires, at least reaching a final of a Grand Slam would be, I don't know, expected, wanted, appreciated by fans. I think he's done enough to kind of merit that. I'd like to see it. I think that would be really nice, or even for him to get a slam. But he has had some great results recently. He's definitely on a sort of more upward turn in his career again. Coming in here as the 10th seed, I think. So really nice to see him get to this stage of Roland Garros for the first time. And yeah, we'll see if he can go any further. He's up against Jannik Sinner in those quarterfinals. It's going to be a tough one for Dimitrov, but stranger things have happened. If Jannik Sinner comes out the way he did against Moutet, then who knows? But the other quarterfinal we do have lined up in this section is Carlos Alcaraz, who will be facing Tsitsipas, who did come through over Arnaldi in 4 sets. Carlos Alcaraz beating Felix Auger-Aliassime in straight sets, 3-3 and 1.
I had so much more promise for this Kim. We spoke last time, and we thought maybe this was on upset alert. I actually thought Felix Auger-Aliassime could pull this out the bag, given his form. Getting to that final in Madrid. The way he's been playing. He had a very good win against Ben Shelton, I thought, but alas, Carlos Alcaraz, who in the previous round said he was feeling himself again, has just kind of cemented that feeling with an absolute drubbing of FAA. I mean, 6-3, 6-3, 6-1. That is a very dominant scoreline.
Yeah, it was easier than I thought it was going to be, actually. I thought Felix might bring a bit more to the table. He has been playing better of late this tournament, but I think the ease with which Alcaraz was able to come through this one, it did surprise me a bit. But I think, it's great for Alcaraz and Alcaraz fans that he's been coming through this tournament like really quite well and consistently and nicely. And I mean, going into the quarter against Tsitsipas, is Alcaraz your favourite based on what we've seen so far? Tsitsipas having a bit of a blip with Arnaldi there.
Do you know, I'd still put that's a tough one. Do you know what, for some reason I'm still leaning towards Tsitsipas. However, I don't think he's done himself any favours with the fact that he's playing the men's doubles. I mean, he was meant to play mixed doubles as well today. He's pulled out of that. I know we were all excited for Tsitsidosa on a mixed court. We're just going to have to wait a little bit longer for that. But even playing with his brother today, Petros, I was sort of thinking, where he's at and the level he is playing, and if he has real ambitions to, make another final, be a Grand Slam singles champion at the French Open, I personally would have pulled out of both, because going into a battle against Carlos Alcaraz, that is going to be very, very physical, and you're going to need all the energy that you can muster, and spending it on doubles courts, I'm not sure if that's the right strategy.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know really, apart from playing, with your brother in the doubles, what the intention was behind entering the doubles, when I would have assumed that Tsitsipas was still very much focused on doing his absolute utmost best in the singles tournament.
I think this, to me, encapsulates that challenge that I think the tour has in terms of how do we make doubles more sexy, and their answer is, let's get more singles players in. But I look at this situation and think, hang on, these singles players, if they're really serious about winning titles, winning Grand Slam titles, then I think doubles can be a distraction. And, the way that the schedule has gone, in over the last, week or so, I don't think Tsitsipas being in the doubles is helping his singles campaign.
Yeah, it's not ideal, and we'll see because, he faces Alcaraz tomorrow. So let's see how physical that match is going to be, how long it's going to go on, if that, is possibly going to play a factor, if the match, especially goes on long. So, but it's exciting that, there are first top 10 battles of the tournament, I think. Alcaraz, Tsitsipas, Sinner and Dimitrov. And the other top 10 battles that we've got are over on the women's side of the draw as well. With tomorrow, we've got quarters lined up with Swiatek against Vondrousova and Coco Gauff against Ons Jabeur. And that's the first time, actually, we've got, in one half of the women's draw, that we've got those projected, quarterfinal seeds. First time since 2007. Where we had that happen. So it doesn't happen very often, especially at Roland Garros. We often have very surprise, semi-finalists, don't we? So the fact that we've got these highly seeded matchups is really exciting.
Some real names in that 2007 half, because we had top seed Justine Henin against the 8th seed Serena Williams. I feel like we need Chris to tell us why Serena Williams was the 8th seed in 2007 at Roland Garros. But we also had Jelena Jankovic versus Nicole Vidisova, the 6th seed. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's a real blast for the past. But I think it's exciting in terms of, as I say, consistency and, having this sort of established form and this established group at the top playing their best tennis. And Kim, I'm not going to lie, in the Swiatek match against Potapova, I was sort of almost a little bit sad for Potapova in terms of how well Swiatek was playing.
It was scary, wasn't it? I mean, it was 40 minutes, 6-love, 6-love.
Do we have to read any more stats? I mean,
24, barely broke a sweat.
24 of 30 points, hit 7 winners, only 1 unforced error in the first set, and then the second set was basically the same. 24 of 28 points. It was an obliteration.
It wasn't even one of those, because sometimes you do get double bagels where there has been quite a few juices and someone's just missed out.
Yeah, it doesn't tell the actual story.
Maybe an hour and a bit. But this was very much, the scoreline says it all. And I mean, Iga Swiatek, she's definitely someone who could afford to play doubles on the side with the speed of some of her victories. But yeah, that's absolute kind of annihilation.
Carnage.
Although, interestingly, she was asked about this in press. She's lost to Potapova previously. And, she was asked, is that something that you were really thinking about a lot and therefore kind of just wanting to kind of crush her on the court as some kind of revenge? But yeah, she said that she did think about it for a short while.
Too nice for that.
Yeah, it wasn't kind of the overriding motivation. Do you think Vondrousova can challenge Swiatek in the next round? I mean, you obviously expect her to get some games against her, but she's a former finalist at Roland Garros. She's a Wimbledon champion. Do you think she's going to make things awkward for Swiatek?
Kim, bringing up Vondrousova getting to that final just gives me memories of Joe Conter in that semi-final, and just like that was Joe Conter's moment. That was Joe Conter's moment. But Vondrousova I think is playing well. She's a bit of a sleeper, I think, in the draw. No one has really been talking about her, despite being, a Grand Slam champion, despite getting to a French Open final. I mean, that hasn't happened, in a few years in terms of Roland Garros. But she's certainly got the experience to handle the moment. I think she's got the ability to handle Swiatek. And despite the Potapova result, I do think we've seen already in the tournament with Swiatek, there is some sort of vulnerability there. She has been pushed. She has been taken the absolute limit. Do I think Vondrousova is going to be able to do that? Oh, I'm not so sure. I think I was reading there's a little bit of an injury concern as well with Vondrousova going into this match, and I feel like that's sort of a very kind of similar theme when we always talk about Marketa Vondrousova. But I think it's going to be tough. I still think Swiatek is the favourite, but I think Vondrousova can ask questions maybe of Swiatek that certainly Potapova wasn't asking.
Yeah, and Ons Jabeur and Coco Gauff, also through. Again, I think both of them have kind of come through without too much fanfare, especially Ons Jabeur. No one's really been she's not been in the conversation, but I think that's just
It's
the
not really
way
been in the
she wants it.
clay swing conversation, and then all of a sudden, we're seeing her playing really well. And I said it before, but I do think that Grand Slams just bring a different energy to Ons Jabeur, and it does elevate her game. She loves playing for the crowds. She loves playing at the French Open, and I think she's going to be a real stern test for Coco Gauff. I mean, Coco Gauff's been playing very, very well, and I think that could be a very, very interesting battle. I could even see Ons Jabeur taking a victory there, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past her. I think we're looking. I think I'd still go for a Swiatek, maybe Swiatek Jabeur semi there, but I don't think Vondrousova will make life too easy for Swiatek. But it's great that we've got this lineup. I think it's a fantastic set of quarterfinalists. Before we look ahead to those quarterfinals and what's coming up tomorrow, we do have some other results to talk through. Bit of a halfway house, I suppose. And that's for Collector Set. We have, an update on how that's all going, because we're about halfway through the tournament. And
I know why you want to bring this up, Kim, and it may be to do with who is in the lead at the moment in Collector Set.
Well, we do have 2 players in the lead with 3 correct answers, and they both have the potential to get 5 correct answers. That is Tennis Yarn and Sue Mackenzie, who does happen to be my mother.
Wow.
Full disclaimer. My mum is doing really well. But also shout outs to Gary Tree. He's the only person to get Madison Keys losing in the 3rd round, correct?
Along with
my mum.
Along with your mum, yeah.
Along with Sue.
Make sure to give her the shout out.
I shall, absolutely. And Tennis Yarn and also Uncle Joe, the only ones to get Collins correct. So well done, because, I think most people fell by the wayside with those 2, sadly. But thanks everyone for taking part. And we'll give you all an update once we do have an ultimate winner of Collector Set.
Kim, I'm nervous. I feel like I might be on for the wooden spoon at the moment. Or the slam spoon of shame, because I've only got one correct pick in Collector Set with Nadal out in round 1, and my quarter by quarter predictions were not very good. And I believe Chris, I think did he get a full house on men's quarterfinals predictions, or close to it anyway. So it's not looking good for me.
He's redeemed himself somewhat. But yes, we'll update fully next, at the end of the tournament. But let's have a quick look at what's happening tomorrow, because like we said, we've got those ladies quarterfinals happening. Gauff Jabeur opening up on Chatrier, followed by Swiatek Vondrousova. Then we go into Dimitrov Sinner in the day session, and then the night match is Tsitsipas against Alcaraz. So cracking set of 4 matches there on Chatrier. Should we just pick our 4 winners from those ones, shall we?
Before we get into predictions, cracking matches, but Coco Gauff, American, first on. That's not ideal for the American
TV
audience. Yeah, what's going on there?
Well, that's true, actually. But maybe it's nice to know that other factors don't dictate the scheduling. I don't know. Maybe. What I do find ongoingly frustrating is the fact that, the attendance at the women's matches continues to be poor in comparison to the men's, and I really don't know if that's a big culture problem at Roland Garros in particular, where it's just night and day between the 2 of them.
It just feels like that, particularly the first match on Chatrier is just a great. I know we talk about the graveyard slot being like the night ending match. Well, I feel like the graveyard slot in this tournament is certainly the first slot, because the attendances have just been it feels like so low, or the crowds have been so empty. But I really hope with Gauff Jabeur, I think we could be in for a treat. And my prediction, I sort of said it before, I'm going to say it again. I'm going to go Ons Jabeur defeating Coco Gauff in 3 sets. Yeah, I'm going Jabeur, Swiatek, and then I'm going to go Sinner and Alcaraz. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm going to go Swiatek, Sinner. I'm going to go Tsitsipas. I've got to go Tsitsipas, I think. I think Tsitsipas is going to defeat Alcaraz. I think Dimitrov might get a set, though. I think he's going to do quite well against Sinner. I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park, she says. But we will be back. Well,
Chris and I will be back on Wednesday, I think, to catch up on all the quarterfinal action. Got 2 days worth of quarters to look forward to. And just before we go, Joel, we do have some matches happening as we speak. Casper Ruud has won through against Taylor Fritz, so he is into the quarterfinals again as well in 4 sets. And Holger Rune has taken the first set over Sasha Zverev.
Ooh,
so
interesting.
my prediction from earlier already looking a bit silly, perhaps. So the tennis continues into the night.
Well, we shall see. We'll see how long it does continue into tonight. Hopefully not another past 3 a.m. finish, but who knows? It might be on. It might be on. Listeners, I hope you've enjoyed our latest episode of the Tennis Weekly podcast. Remember to subscribe to us to stay up to date on all the action still to come this week from Roland Garros. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcasting platforms out there. And if you like what you're hearing, then make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
You can also follow us on social media or email the show. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube and X. And our handle is @TennisWeeklyPod. You can also purchase Tennis Weekly merch at etsy.com/shop/tennisweeklypodcast. You can email the show tennisweeklypod@gmail.com. And also do check out our website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we will be back on Wednesday at Tennis Weekly HQ for our quarterfinals catch-up. That will be with Kim and Chris, so I hope you can join them for that. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from Kim.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. We'll see you again soon.